Hello, everyone. Welcome to the World Monologue Games live stream info session. It is great to have you here this evening or whatever time it is for you. My name is Pete Malicki. I'm the founder of World Monologue Games. So in this session, I'm just going to talk through how the whole event works. I'm going to run through the rules, the requirements. It's a chance to ask any questions. You've got a chat. If you're watching this live, you can throw a question into the chat box at any time. If you're watching this later, you can pop me an email or you can leave a question as a comment and I'll do my best to answer it. The info session last year took about an hour. I think we'll probably be a little bit quicker this year, but let's see how we go. So I'm just going to dive straight into it. But to start off with, I'm going to share a message from our ambassador. So World Monologue Games this year is very fortunate to have Chen Tang as our global ambassador. It's really exciting. Chen is a fantastic actor. Not only did he win World Monologue Games last year, but he is doing really, really well in the commercial world. He was just in the movie Milan, and he's currently starring in the TV series Warrior. So Chen is awesome. And I am going to share a little message from Chen.
You know, we as actors are always wondering, how do I get eyes, the right eyes on me, and how do I go make a career? This is what I really want to do. So the great thing about the WMG is your performance is going to be live streamed all over the world to casting directors, agencies who want to see you. Go and do it. This is a perfect opportunity. Go and sign up.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Chen, for that. I see there's a bit of chat. I'm always monitoring the chat, so if you see me looking a bit distracted, that's why. Someone's having audio issues, but someone else can hear, so it looks like it's okay. Welcome, Yaya. I can see you've just joined the stream. Okay, so let's dive into it. Now that we've heard from Chen, I've just got a bunch of notes here. I'm just going to read through these. I can't see the chat sometimes, so please be patient. If you put a chat message, I'll jump in and look at those chat messages at certain times. So what is World Monologue Games, first of all? It's a live stream acting showcase and competition. Last year, we had 3,000 performers from 85 countries register for our inaugural World Monologue Games. And it was a very popular event. We had over 70,000 views on YouTube, which is pretty significant for an acting event and for a new competition. This year, we are projecting to triple or quadruple our size. We're putting, obviously, word of mouth from last year is getting around. We're putting a lot more resources into marketing, and we have a new partnership program, which I'll talk about at some point a little bit later on. But this event was set up in response to COVID. So I actually had plans to run just an acting competition, just an online monologue competition. And COVID being such an awful thing was actually also a wonderful opportunity to set up an event using live stream as its mechanism. And so that's basically why we're here. Or where we started. And I mean, obviously the world's still going through COVID and lockdown 12 months later, sadly. So it's still a good thing that we're here to, provide a platform and opportunities during these times. But the World Monologue Games is something that's going to live on back when when the world's back to normal. But as such, the design of the event is based around the fact that people are often stuck in lockdowns or don't really have access to great resources. So the emphasis of the games is well and truly on performance. It's not on technology. It's not about having, fantastic camera work or even like the best quality gear. It's just really focusing purely about the acting. Sorry, I just got a message that it's a little bit laggy. We'll do our best. hopefully that isn't too ongoing. So let me just talk through a bit about how World Monologue Games works. So there are 3 phases. We're currently in the qualifiers phase, which is where people are submitting their performances. This has been going on since early April when we first opened submissions. We've been having submissions rolling in, and it goes all the way up until our late deadline. I'll go through those dates in a bit. After this, the judges look at all of the submissions and give them a rating, and I'll talk more about this. And then the best performances go through to our live stream events. That's broken down into the regionals, which is the best performances based on the various categories, but then also country. And it is distilled all the way down to the final events, which is the global finals, the best performers from around the world in each category. So let me talk through judgment to start off with. So Well, I might jump into the timelines first. So there was an early bird deadline. When was it? A few weeks ago in May, the 24th of May, I think it was. So there are many people who submitted by that deadline. And the advantage was if you submitted by the deadline and got 200 views on your YouTube video, then you could get an extra free entry. So if you missed that, it really doesn't matter. At this point, entries are still free. So if you're watching this and you haven't signed up yet, you can still sign up and participate for free. The deadline for World Monologue Games 2021 is Monday, the 21st of June. The time is 11:59 p.m. in your time zone. So what that means is the very end of Monday to the 21st of June, no matter where you are in the world, when it hits midnight where you are, that's when your submissions close. So after that point in time, you will be able to submit by the late deadline. The problem for some people will be that if you are trying to submit after the deadline, you will now have to pay. So the late deadline is on the 12th of July, and you can still submit for World Monologue Games, but you have to pay an entry fee. So it is free, like I said, if you're getting in early, but if you're going for the late deadline, you have to pay. Now, I should say that if you have won an extra entry or purchased extra entries, then all of them are due on the late deadline. So let's say you got that early bird special, you got the 200 views before the 24th of May, you have an extra entry, and you can use that up until the 12th of July. Likewise, if you purchase an extra entry or one of our specials, which I'll run through, then they're all due on the 12th of July. So it's a bit of a perk. If you purchase something, then you get to submit everything up until the late deadline. What can you perform? I'm getting a lot of questions from people, particularly in regard to copyright, which I'll talk about now. So you can actually perform anything at all that you want. In World Monologue Games, the choice is yours. But there's a few things to bear in mind. One is the emphasis is on the acting. So you're not going to be judged by the script. And the script itself it's kind of not considered as part of the judgment. It's really, think of it, if you're an actor watching this, think of it as a tool to help you do the best performance. A few things to bear in mind is that we have almost no restrictions, but you can't mention coronavirus, you can't mention the global pandemic, and you can't mention that directly or indirectly. So if you're sort of talking about lockdowns, you can't do that. If you're talking about wearing masks and it's related to COVID, then you can't do that. Like the whole point of this event is to give people a break from COVID, to give them something else to think about and to enjoy. So even though there are lots of things, there's lots of entertainment around COVID, there's web series, there's competitions, events, we are not one of them. We are an anti-COVID event. In terms of your style or genre, it can be anything. It can be a film style, performance and piece. It can be theatre style. It could be Shakespeare. That is entirely up to you. The other requirement is that you need to have permission from whoever holds the copyright for your piece. Now, this is where it can get a little bit tricky. If you're trying to do something that's 40 years old, that's still governed by copyright. Basically, copyright law says if a work is within 75 years of its first publication date, then it's under copyright. And it can be tricky if you're going, a few decades back to try to actually get in touch with the writer, particularly if you're doing film or television. Then it can be really difficult because you might, there just might not be a line to that writer. There might not be a way of reaching them. So it can be tricky, but the reason is because we have to follow copyright law. If we're publishing this event, which we do, we publish it publicly on YouTube, then it is the copyright law requires us to get permission from the copyright owners for anything that we use. So any script, we don't use music in World Monologue Games, but if you had to use music or images or anything like that, if they're under copyright, you need to get permission to use them. So what we don't want to have happen is one of our videos to be removed because somebody hasn't got copyright permission. So it's just a requirement, and we have to go along with it. And it's out of respect to the writers as well, or the content creators, that we do ask them and get permission. So really, there's no real trick to it other than just doing a bit of research. If you don't know who the writer is, you can look them up. See if you can find their website. I find that is usually a pretty good way. See if you can find them on social media, and just reach out to them directly. If it's something like a movie or a TV series, you might be able to contact the producers. So find out what production company publish the work or produce the work, and again, look for their website or social media and reach out to them and ask for permission. We had quite a lot of people last year do this. They got permission from all kinds of things, but then sometimes people were not able to find the copyright holder or to get permission, in which case they just had to find a different piece. And again, that's annoying for us. It's unfortunate, but we do have to follow the copyright rules. So that is what it is. You are very welcome, if you're doing World Monologue Games, to use any of the scripts on our website. So the Monologue Project is the company that runs World Monologue Games, and we have about 75 or 80 short monologues, so that's like 1 to 3 minutes, and we have about 30 longer monologues. That's more like the 7 to 10 minutes, so good for the endurance category, and I'll talk through those categories. If you want to use any of our monologues, you are very, very welcome to. You don't need to ask permission. You have permission already by entering this event. I am very happy to grant you permission for any of our work, so that's totally fine. Now, I can see some questions coming in. I'm not necessarily going to answer them in real time because I'll just get through my script and then come back to them. I do see one question around copyright though. So yeah, if something's 80 years old, you don't need to get permission because it's not in copyright anymore. Now, I guess it's outwardly possible that somebody has sold the rights or something like that. Like there are cases where it still is within copyright. But I think it's pretty safe if it's 80 years old that you're okay to use it for the event. So, I mean, sometimes I get questions about the classics and Shakespeare and stuff. That stuff is out of copyright. I mean, if it's over 75 years old, you're pretty right to go. Now, your performance does need to be filmed for World Monologue Games. So it needs to be a submission made specifically for this event. It can't be done for anything else. It's not to say that you can't use the same performance for more than one thing, but it has to be filmed for this year's event. So you can't copy existing content, existing monologues and use those. If it's already been put on YouTube, let's say, last year you uploaded a really great self-tape that you did, you cannot submit that to World Monologue Games. The upload date needs to be after the opening of the competition this year, which was the 1st of April. So if the video is published before the 1st of April, it's just simply ineligible. you can do a new performance, but what I'd strongly discourage you from doing is uploading content that you've already used before. We do actually check. There's a lot of stuff that happens behind the scenes in events like this that people don't really think about, but we do check. If the performance is going to go through to our live stream events, we will have a quick check. We'll just look at people's YouTube accounts and see if the same video exists, or see if it's been posted on their social media. You know, this stuff's usually public, and you know, we might catch somebody who's trying to use you know, an old performance. So please don't do that. It's really against the spirit of the event. The purpose here is that we're creating new entertainment for people. So it's not just for the benefit of the actors, it's also for an audience. So I've tried to create an event which gives people a good reason to want to watch a bunch of actors doing just like what you'd normally think of as audition pieces or self-tapes. By creating a live stream event and packaging performances by category and region, that's been really successful. So people love to watch this event. We had just great eyeballs on it last year, like I said. And the best way to keep people engaged with the event is to keep giving them fresh content. If they're seeing the same performances more than once, then they start to lose interest really, really quickly. And we don't want that. We want to build the event so that we get more and more and more views, and the value for you, performers, just increases. I mean, this is really what it's all about. It's about creating value for you as a performer. So that's why we don't want old content, old monologues being sent into the event. What else can I say? Now, there's lots of different areas to talk about. So pardon me if I'm just pausing or vaguing out briefly. I can see some questions that will be answered. So I'll answer them when I answer them. Someone's asked, "Can you write your own monologue?" You absolutely can. Yes, please do that. Someone's talked about video framing. I'll talk about that in a minute, but just to quickly answer your question there, Matt, should the video look like a slate chest to top? It doesn't matter. It's up to you. We don't have requirements on how you need to film this, but I'll get into more detail about that. So I'm just going to talk briefly now about who are you representing at World Monologue Games. Are you representing your country? Like, first of all, you choose which country you want to perform for. Now, some people were born in one country but are currently living in another country, or some people were born in one country and live most of their life in a second country and are currently in a third country. We leave that up to you. So whatever country you feel best represents you, whether it's your country of origin or your heritage, the country that you're in, the country that you've spent most of your life, that is entirely up to you who you choose to represent. We don't police that in any way. I mean, I suppose I'm always thinking about what are the ways people can try to get around the rules. Thankfully, we didn't really have that last year. There weren't people trying to be sneaky or dodgy. So I don't know, there might be a reason why you try to pretend to be from one country because you can perceive an advantage. I can't see that happening, but you know, if it does, then we'll address it, and basically I'll talk a little bit about how we address stuff like that as well. Now, you can also choose to represent a school or an agency or another event. Now, we have quite a number of participating schools and organisations at World Monologue Games this year, after launching our partnership program, which I'm super excited by. We have fantastic events and organizations around the world who've partnered with us. And what this basically means is that you can choose as a performer to represent that agent or school or whoever in the games. And the way that you do that is when you register for the event, when you first sign up, there's a drop-down menu which basically asks you, have you been nominated to represent somebody, a school or an agency? And you simply pick from the list. If your school or agency or whoever is not in that list, this might be an opportunity to get them to partner with us. So let's just say you have a talent agent, Bill Smith, and you don't see Bill Smith Agency in the list when you sign up. contact Bill and see if he'd like to join the event. Put him in touch with me and I can send him some more information about becoming a partner, and perhaps then we can go into a partnership and you can represent them. This doesn't really have an impact on your chances of success or anything like that. It's just a way that you can be part of a team, or choose to nominate the group that you've worked with, or the person that you're associated with. I think that's about that. Someone's asked, why do we have to choose a country? Well, we're a global event and we just have various categories based on age and the duration of the monologue, and we also do a lot of performances by region. So when we get to the first stage of the live streams, this is called the regional live stream finals. And what we do is we break the performances down into different countries or different regions. So let's say we have 10,000 people sign up this year, and we get, 2,000 people going through to the regionals. Then we'll say, okay, how many people do we have from different parts of the world? And that's how we group them into the first live stream event. So if we had 50 people from Australia, we'll just run an Australian event. If we had, say, 20 people from Korea and 10 from Japan and 5 from Vietnam, just by way of example, well, we might group them into an Asia event. So selecting your country is the way that we help group our performers for those regional events. It's a good opportunity for me to talk through the different categories. So we basically have 3 different categories for age groups, and we have 3 different categories for duration, and then certain combinations of these are available. So I'm just going to go through all 6 of the categories that we have. So the main category is 1 to 2.5 minutes for the performance. For that, we have Tigers. The Tigers main category are performers up to and including the age of 11. We then have the Youth main category. So that's performers from the age of 12 to 17 inclusive, and they perform a 1 to 2.5 minute monologue. Now, we do have the sprint and the endurance monologues, the shorter and longer ones. And last year we had sprint as an option for the Youth and Tigers categories, but we didn't get that many entries. So we decided to just focus on just the one category for the Youth and Tigers performers for this year. If the event continues to grow and we start to get more demand from the younger performers, then we'll definitely run those categories next year or in the future. We also have the amateur main category. So we've got amateur and professional. Now, this is a self-assessment. As a performer, you get to choose whether or not you think you are more appropriate to be in the amateur category or the professional category. We don't check this in any way. It's entirely up to you. So if you feel like you're in the earlier stages of your career, or maybe you're doing it for fun, maybe, let's say you've just done community theatre even for a long time, but you don't consider yourself a career actor who's trying to do this for a living, you can choose to be in the amateur category if you'd like. In the exact same circumstance, you can choose to be in the professional category. It's entirely up to you. The only restriction we do place on this is if you have been in the global finals as an amateur, you need to be in the pro category this year. So we don't want you to be doing really, really well to be considered the best in the world in the amateur category, and then to be in the amateur category again in the future. Even if you feel like you haven't done much more with acting, we just want to make sure that we don't have the same people in the amateur category moving forwards. So obviously the next category is the main professional category, and that's 1 to 2.5 minutes for anybody who's 18 and over. I should point out that your age, your gender, your race, your background, your interests, your politics, all of this stuff, we don't factor it in at World Monologue Games whatsoever. We only have the categories that we have. Otherwise, you are just on an equal footing, whether you're 18 or 85. And again, no matter what your background is, we just don't consider those factors to be relevant for World Monologue Games. So we simply ignore them. We just yeah, that's it. What can I say? So the other categories are sprint, which is 45 to 60 seconds. So just for the really short monologues. Again, that's only available for the adults, and there's no amateur category for that as well. So it's just there's just sprint adult, basically 45 to 60 seconds. And then endurance, which is 5 to 10 minutes. It's kind of my favorite category. I think it's such a different challenge to perform a 7 or 8 or 9 minute monologue compared to like the short audition length. I think that the type of piece you find is very different. So the writing is really different. And as a writer myself, I think the primary difference is that the shorter pieces, they're really written to help an actor showcase their skills. And obviously that's great for World Monologue Games. But, you know, the purpose of an audition monologue is to help you land work. Whereas a longer monologue, 5 to 10 minutes, that's a piece of entertainment in its own rights. And I've written a lot of both. So I really encourage people to consider doing an endurance piece. I think it's a fantastic challenge for actors. And we had some awesome stuff last year. You can actually find basically the whole of World Monologue Games on YouTube still from last year. If you want to check out what people did last year, what got them into the regionals, who did well in the globals, you can see the winners and everything. So feel free to just search for it and check out the previous event. Okay, I'll just have a quick look through the questions, see if there's anything that I can answer now. Okay, so I think I've answered pretty much everything that I can see there. Someone actually, though, earlier has said they're new to acting and can they suggest a section? Well, I think the amateur category is perfect for you if you're new to acting. It's 1 to 2.5 minutes, so that's pretty relatively easy to do. Endurance might be a bit harder if you're new. It's pretty hard to sustain a character for 5 to 10 minutes. And particularly because we don't allow any cuts. I'll talk through the rules and requirements shortly, but it has to be done in one take because we want to show what a performer would be like if they were doing this live. So obviously these videos that you're sending in for the qualifiers are pre-recorded, but we want it to look as if it is live. So I'm going to talk about judging. We have a fantastic panel of industry professionals as judges. I think a lot of the people who judged the games last year will stay on. I seem to have quite a lot of really positive feedback from people. They seem to have a good, fun time. So hopefully a lot of those guys will come on board, but of course we'll have many new judges signing up as well. We do have a page on the website where you can see the judges. If you go onto our homepage, it's not in the header at the top. There's no judges link at the very top, but I just put it in. I saw it was missing today, and I just added it in the Q&A where it mentions judges. I've now put a link so you can see the page of last year's judges. I'm not going to put that in the header and make it too easy to find just yet until I've confirmed everyone. So, but please bear in mind, if you're looking at that now, at the time this is recorded, some of those judges will not return and there will be new ones. I'm seeing some questions come in. I'll get to those after I talk about judging. So how judgment works is every single submission we received is judged by 3, sometimes more, of these industry professionals. And I should say, if you look at their profiles, there's quite a lot of impressive people there. We've got people who've had films selected for the Cannes Film Festival and casting directors and people just, with decades of really senior experience, a lot of people who are running their own acting schools or theatres or organisations. So it's an amazing judging panel, and we're really quite honoured to be working with such incredible people from all around the world as well. So it's not just like a Eurocentric view or a Western view of performance. We do get really good broad representation, which is quite lovely. So the way that it works is every performance gets, let's say, at the minimum 3 judgments, and the judges give you a score out of 5, and it has to be a whole mark. So it's just 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. We quite simply look at all the scores, find your average score after judgment, and we will then look at everybody in your category, in your region, and we will determine how many performers are going to go through to the live streams. So the exact dates of the live streams and the number of shows and the number of participants is not set, and the reason is because we want to see what we get first, rather than committing to running X number of shows or having Y number of performers included. We really want to keep it open and to be able to accommodate as many really strong performers who the judges like as possible. Last year we ran about 25 live stream shows. I'd be happy if we ran 100 this year. So we just need to wait to see what the entries are, what the standard's like, and then we'll determine all of those things that flow on from that, like the number of shows and dates, etc. What else do I have to say about judging? So their criteria is all around acting. It's not based on the technical side of things. So they won't be considering the video quality. They won't be considering camera work, costumes, set, all of that kind of stuff. It's really, for judges, it's purely an acting competition. Now, it's not to say that these things won't have an influence. I think we have to remember the human side here. And if you have really crappy audio and it's like out of focus or really low res, and you're just sort of performing sitting in a chair with a plain background and no costume, even though it's really supposed to be all about the acting and someone who's gone to a lot of effort with good tech and all the bells and whistles, I think it's just fair to say that people will be influenced, even if the criteria tells them not to be. So we do have to be realistic, and I would encourage people to do the best that they can. Technology for sure is not important as long as we can hear you clearly, and it's good to be able to see your expressions. Then you should be fine. But beyond that, like, I think putting a bit of effort in is good, but it's really not the emphasis. We do actually run a film festival. There's the World Monologue Film Festival, and that's where we consider all of those things. So if you feel like you wanted to do something that's like more of a package deal rather than just doing a great performance, then have a think about getting involved in World Monologue Film Festival. We'd absolutely love to have your entries. We put on a fantastic festival just a couple of months ago, and some amazing stuff in there. But yeah, emphasis is well and truly on the acting. I guess a little tip would be to consider lighting as well. One pretty easy tip I can give you is that cameras, particularly the lower quality range, they don't do very well with low light. So if you don't have the best gear and you want to get the best out of it, then I just suggest that you record in daytime or try to find a spot that has good lighting. And I think actually audio is more important than video. If you can't hear the audio, it's so hard to connect with the piece and appreciate it. So I definitely think about getting good audio. It doesn't even mean you need to get even a mic like this. This is just a podcasting mic, or to get radio mics or anything like that. But just think about how you record it. If there's a lot of background noise, or if you're too distant from the microphone, then it might be an issue. A lot of people just recorded with their phones or just a basic camera, and that was fine. They made it through to the globals with that technology. So if you don't have it, don't stress. Again, this event is designed to be really accessible. That's really the heart, is to make it, we made it free so that anyone in the world can participate, and de-emphasizing technology. So no matter what your circumstances are, you can still participate as an equal. I see some questions in here. I'm just going to talk through the requirements so I can answer those. All English? No, you can perform in any language that you like. So last year, believe it or not, we had 3 of our 6 category winners did not perform in English. We had a German woman living in Austria, Helena, who won 2 categories. She won sprint and endurance. She's a mind-blowing performer. Like, it's just absolutely fantastic. And she performed both of those pieces in German, and won 2 categories. It's really amazing. So no, we don't have any requirements on language. Sami Hatem won our youth category performing in Arabic. And these 3 performances from these 2 actors were just fantastic. Even though You know, most of us are probably English speakers, even though a lot of people would not be able to understand them. You can appreciate good acting even if you don't speak the language. So that's I think that's a really cool thing about the event, that we let you participate no matter what. In terms of like racy language, F-bombs, sexual language, absolutely no restrictions. You can do anything that you want there. We're not about like moderating people's creative choices. If you want to do something that's really horrible and violent or whatever, you want to play a really awful character, we want you to be able to do whatever you want. I think we can let the audience decide how much they like you if you make that choice. Hi Ash, I can see you're here. You've asked when is the next festival. I'm assuming you're talking about World Monologue Film Festival. That's quite a way away because we do World Monologue Games first. But I think I talked about the timelines as well. Yeah, I did. I talked about the timelines for World Monologue Games. So, yeah, deadline on the 21st of June, late deadline 12th of July, and then we'll start with the regionals probably like August, September. Again, that's going to depend on exactly how many entries we get. So to continue on with the requirements, there's actually no limit to the number of entries that you can submit. Everyone gets one free one, and you can pay for further entries if you wish. I mean, personally, I'd love you to pay for extra entries because a lot of this event is free, and it takes 6 months of my year, and I don't get paid for it. So that's just one small way of covering the costs and even earning a little bit of coffee money or something like that. That's really great. But we also don't limit the number of performances that you can get through. I can't remember what was the most that any one performer had, but I think there was probably someone with like 4 or 5 that made it through to the regionals. We did have some really successful performers. So yeah, go for it. You can go as many as you like, and you can pick whatever category that you want. You can submit to more than one category with different pieces. That's totally fine. Like I said, it does need to be one continuous take, so you can't stop the camera, you can't cut anything in. We did have some people submit that last year. They're just disqualified. We simply will just mark it as disqualified and they don't make it through. It is all about the performance, so I want to discourage you right from the beginning from doing things like music, subtitles, titles, graphics, anything like that. It's just about you, and it's about you acting. Now, in the qualifiers, if you've put music on or you've added subtitles, we won't disqualify you, but those things won't be considered. If you're getting through to the live stream events, you can't do that stuff at all. So just bear in mind, it's just about you, and it's just about you performing. Now, there can't be another human involved in your in your performance. Of course, you can use someone to film for you. That's totally fine. But you can't have an off-screen voice. You can't have a silent body. Like, it just needs to be you and you alone. Don't use voiceover, so don't try to do any kind of post. Again, it's in the qualifiers, we're simulating a live performance. In the live streams, it's a live stream. So yeah, just please think about that. Focus really, it's just about you as an actor doing your best acting. Don't worry about the bells and whistles, that kind of stuff. What else do I have here in terms of requirements? In terms of timing, the timing is not, the timing doesn't start when you start speaking. The timing starts when you start acting. So if your video is, let's say it's the main category, which is 1 to 2.5 minutes, and your video was 2 minutes and 32 seconds, but you've got a bit of a reach to the camera at the beginning and at the end. Now, you can edit that out, that's much better, but we won't start timing until you start acting. And that does not mean when you start talking. Acting starts when you're going into character. And you could be sitting there with your head in your hands, that's acting. So I just strongly encourage you to just think about meeting the time limit, and that's it. If you go over the time limit or under the time limit, your work will be disqualified. If it's 1 second, we give you 1 second's grace, but that's it. And that's to account for like when you film something and then upload it, sometimes the time changes by 1 second. So 1 second's grace. so don't risk it. Just make sure it fits within the time limit and you'll be fine. I guess another thing to say as well is that it's just not necessary to add introductions like, hi, my name is Pete and today I'll be performing this piece. Like, again, that's not considered. It's not necessary. Just don't include it. I think the video description is a really good place for you to do your acknowledgements. It's more appropriate because people are coming here to watch your acting. They can look in the video description if they want to find out more about the writer, or if you've worked with a director or camera people, just whack that into the video description. That's a really appropriate place to put that information. Okie dokie, getting there. So I want to talk about the regionals. I've talked about the dates and some stuff. What else am I going to say? You know what? I've already talked about all of this stuff. Sorry, I've got my notes in front of me and I've jumped ahead and answered some questions. So I do get a little bit lost sometimes. Just looking at a question here. Laura, that's a good question. If you find a longer monologue, let's say it's a 3-minute monologue, can you just perform some of it? Absolutely. As long as you have permission from the copyright holder, absolutely. You're very welcome to just use excerpts or trim it down. As long as the copyright holder's happy with that. Sometimes writers will say, no, I need to see the complete thing. For the games, I'm really happy with any of my work on our website, monologues.com.au. You can make those adjustments to make it fit your categories. Feel free to do that. But yeah, you will need to ask your writers. Okie dokie. So in terms of prizes, we have $5,000 of cash to give to our winners, which is really exciting because a lot of events, they give sort of non-monetary prizes, and sometimes they're really awesome. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to be critical, but cash is just such a great prize because, of course, everybody can use and appreciate cash. And what this means is that 18 people from this competition this year are going to win cash. So the top 3 in all 6 of the categories. I really want to thank the people who've made this cash available to us. So first of all, Caroline Nyakachana, who's very generously donated most of that money. That's absolutely fantastic. So I think she's a big part of the reason. She was the #1 fan last year, just an amazing supporter of the event, and this is really next level. It's really helping us, support more performers and be a bigger and better event. Arts Business Academy is another business that I run. We're chucking in a bunch of the money as well, $1,500 of that prize money. And our global ambassador, Chen Tang, actually donated his prize money from last year back to the event, which is just so incredibly generous and humbling. So we have these guys to thank for all of this prize money. We're definitely open to getting other prizes as well. We had a few other prizes last year. I'm going to look for some other prizes, but I've been focusing very closely on trying to drive enrollment into the event. If you're interested in being a prize giver, then get in touch and we can talk. There's great sponsorship opportunities. Actually, basically we other than the 70,000 views on YouTube, we have over 250,000 digital touch points last year in terms of like website and emails and stuff like that. So there's really amazing opportunities to sponsor us. We will obviously choose appropriate sponsors, so it has to be relevant to the performing arts industry. But yeah, please get in touch. And I'll just add that if you win a prize, you do need to claim it within 4 weeks. It's Australian dollars, by the way, because we've got people from all around the world. Which is pretty good. It's not the strongest currency, but it's pretty good. So if you win a prize, you're just going to need to provide, details. We'll talk through that within 4 weeks, and then that way I don't have a debt hanging over my head for a long time. We have a ranking system at World Monologue Games. I just want to tell you a little bit about that. So anyone who made it into last year's regionals or globals has earned a place on the ranking board in the different categories. It's a combination. It's basically their position in the event, and that was a combination of the judges, mostly the judges, but then the audience. So effectively, we put people in position according to how many judges' votes they got, and if they had the same number of votes as another performer, then the audience vote was the tiebreaker. So yeah, if you had 3 people that all had 12 judges' points, we'd look at how many audience votes they got second. The reason we do that is because we want to make sure that the judging is considered as the prominent thing. We love our viewers being able to participate in World Monologue Games and voting, but of course it can become a popularity contest. So people who've got big social media followings or who spend a lot of effort promoting, getting their friends to vote for them, we don't want them to just get a free pass through the event. So we've sort of put the greater emphasis on the judges and the lesser emphasis on the audience. And then with these rankings, every year they get adjusted, and basically your rank for the current year plus a ever diminishing score available from previous years will also contribute towards your rank. So like, let's say you ranked first last year and then 10th this year. Like that last year's ranking is going to help you out a little bit. It's you probably won't be in. Well, you might still be in first depending on who else goes in there. But like what we don't want to have is somebody who came first 3 years ago and they're still ranked number 1. So think of it a little bit like major sporting events like the tennis. I don't know exactly what algorithms they use, but like the recency of the success as well as the nature of the success are factored in. So essentially we have a ranking system that looks like that. Now, I mean, this is just something that you can get into, or you can just ignore depending on what you want to do. There are some people who just want to perform because they believe in performing for art's sake, and there are some people who really get into the competition side. I think that's just a personal choice what you want to emphasize. I mean, I see both points, and I quite like doing both of those things, but yeah, like that's totally up to you. Okay, just have a quick question. I saw there was a question I just wanted to answer. Give me a sec. So I've answered that question about using monologues from film a bit earlier on. If you came in late to the live stream, just check that out. But basically, you just need to get permission. Okay, so let me talk about how to make a submission. I saw some questions there. First of all, you do have to register. The reason is it will create an account for you in the system that I use. That's linked to your email address. So when you register, make sure you use the same email address for everything. If you make a purchase, make sure you use the same email address. Otherwise, it creates a second account and they're not linked. And then you'll have to tell me, otherwise I might not even know that that's happened. So please use the same email address. And when you make a submission, please use the same email address for that as well. That just makes sure everything's linked to the same account and we don't have any data issues. I can often figure it out, but it'd be really great if you could just stick with the one email address. When you upload your video to YouTube, you need to use a particular naming convention. It's written in the instructions. I should also say that when you register, you'll get an email with the instructions. It comes maybe 24 hours after you first register, but my system's actually set to change that. So if you register, what's the date? Like, let's say you register on the 13th of June, then you will probably get the submissions instructions about 20 minutes after you register. But anyway, like the naming convention is written in that email, and it's on the website as well. When you click submissions, there's a video that gives you instructions, and it has those things written out. But you're putting in World Monologue Games, and then your country, and then your name. And the reason is because we actually want the event actually starts before the regionals for the audience. So you can go onto YouTube today and search World Monologue Games, and you will find this year's competitors. So that's part of the reason why we use YouTube as a platform, because it's such a searchable platform. But yeah, you should consider that the event is an open public event, and we do have people going on and searching World Monologue Games, and maybe you need to sort it by date so you don't just see last year's entries now that we're in our second year. But yeah, there were lots of people who would go on and they'd make comments on lots of different competitors' videos. So do bear in mind that people will be looking for the event at this stage. So make sure you use that naming convention when you submit. I've got a couple of other notes here about YouTube, that it's free to use. So if you don't have an account, you can set one up. You don't have to pay for it. That's a good thing. Now, also, there's a point here with, I guess, like sort of privacy for the younger performers. If you're an adult, you need to submit your video as public. And again, it's because this is a public event. If you are under the age of 18, then it needs to be unlisted. That way we are protecting our young performers. We don't want to force them to make their video public if you're under the age of 18. If you put your video unlisted, let's say you're 14 years old and you and your family, your parents or guardians are happy to promote your video, you're very welcome to do it. You can send the link around, you can post it on social media. It just won't be searchable directly through YouTube. So make sure you do that as well. So make sure when you submit, you're making it private or unlisted rather, or public, depending on your age group. I've already mentioned thanking the writer or collaborator, putting your acknowledgements in the video description. That's a really good place to do it. Again, people will be finding videos and seeing them, so it's really nice to acknowledge your writer. I mean, I'm one of the writers. Last year, a number of people used my work, and it's really nice when they just say, written by Pete Malicki. I'm quite happy to see that. So I think everybody should do that. It's just a nice thing. And of course, if you used a director or someone helped you film, it's just a courtesy to acknowledge them. In terms of selecting your category, you do that at the time of submission. The reason is because when you register, that's creating an account with us. When you submit, that's when you put in your performance. And if you do 3 different performances in 2 or 3 different categories, well, if you had to select it up front, then it wouldn't work properly. So we've made you select your category at the time of submission. So sometimes people sign up and they can't find the category and they get a bit freaked out. Don't worry about that. That's all good. You'll get that when you actually make the submission. So just bear that in mind as well. Make sure again that your performance fits the time limit. Otherwise, unfortunately, we're really strict on this. We just will disqualify anything that doesn't fit the time limit. Sometimes, depending on how much time I have, I will contact the performer and say, hey, that was too long, too short. Do you want to submit again? Sometimes I won't do that. So apologies if I don't. It's usually due to capacity. I do other things outside of World Monologue Games, and particularly when we're close to the deadline, there just might not be time for that. Consider your time zone as well. So remember, if you're going to make a submission, there are deadlines. I just really encourage people not to be right down to the deadline. You just run a real risk that you miss the deadline. As soon as the deadline ticks over, the system automatically changes. So if you're using a free entry and you haven't purchased any additional ones, then it'll just be switched off. That free entry is removed automatically by the system at the time of the deadline. So don't risk it. Try to submit at least a day ahead. Remember as well, international time zones. Sometimes people are the number of times I've been on meetings and someone's been there 24 hours late or whatever. Try to be careful. And please, guys, do read the terms and conditions. It's not much. There's nothing controversial in there, but it just makes sure that you've met all the requirements and done the right thing. I really hate to disqualify you. It's a waste of your time if you've put all this effort in, and it's a waste of my time and the team's time if we have to look at something because you haven't read your emails properly or whatever. we have to disqualify it. Like, just please do us the courtesy of just having a read through those terms and conditions. That'd be much appreciated. Matt, I can see you're asking a question on where do we send our video. So when you register, you'll get an email that has submission instructions. I should also mention, guys, please check your spam folder. Sometimes we do get caught by spam filters. So check for those. If you don't receive that email, then send me an email. You should have that information. It's on the website, World Monologue Games. Well, that's not the URL, but it's on the World Monologue Games website. Send me an email if you've signed up and didn't get it, and I'll have a look for you. And yeah, there's all the instructions there. You basically fill out a form and put the YouTube link in the form, and then that gets it to us. And it's really important that it comes through these channels, because that ensures that our judges get access to it and all of that, and it's checking that you haven't submitted too many times or whatever. There's a lot of checks that are done automatically by the system. Okie dokie. So if you make it through to the regionals or the globals, then you will need to do a new performance of the same monologue. Now, last year, if anyone watched my info session from last year, I said I'd encourage you to use a different monologue. I realized that was a bad idea after doing that live stream. And the reason is, let's say you submit 3 entries, and you do piece A and piece B and piece C, and let's say only piece C makes it through. That's the only one that the judges selected. Then if you could change your mind, you could pick piece A, and you could be doing a performance that the judges didn't select in the live stream. So it actually just made sense for that and other reasons to just stick with using the same piece all the way through. So just bear that in mind as well. Okay, so there's specials. I'll just run through those. You can buy extra entries. Like I said, you can get 1 extra entry for $6.95 or 3 extra entries for $14.95. All of these prices are in US dollars. So the prize money's in Australian dollars, and the prices, these things are in US dollars. That's just the way my system works. Let's not get into the details. There's a few different specials which are really good value. If you're considering getting more involved in the event, I'd really encourage you to look at these. So we have the WMG booster pack. Sorry, I'm just reading off this. I don't remember these details. I don't want to say the wrong thing. Where you can get 2 extra entries and one of our audition monologue books called Auditionomicon, which has 25 original monologues, all of which pretty much are suitable for the games, for $13.45. So it's actually cheaper than just purchasing 3 new entries. There's the WMG Champion Pack, which is 3 extra entries and 2 of our publications, so 50 monologues, and that's $18.85. And just turning over to my last sheet, we also have the WMG Infinity Pack. This is for hardcore performers. I would love to see some people jumping on this. 5 extra entries, our 3 publications, so that's 75 original monologues that you can not only, of course, use for the games, but you can keep these for the rest of your life and use them for whatever auditions, whatever purpose that you want. We also give you half price on for all Monologue Project publications. So if you buy this Infinity Pack, whenever we release a new publication or any new content, you get half price for the rest of your life. So that's a pretty cool deal in my view, particularly if you're thinking about getting really involved and submitting a bunch of entries. Okay, I'm just thinking we're probably getting pretty close to the end. So if anyone has any questions, now's the time to pop them in the chat. I might just run through a few more things, and then if there are no further questions, we'll leave it at that. What have I said? I've got some notes here about the regionals. I think I've kind of talked about this before. I mean, if you make it through to the regionals, we'll send more information. And I did a regional live stream info session as well, just to really run through the ins and outs. So I guess there's probably not much point me running through this now, but just to say that, the process is a bit different, but fairly similar. Like, we just want you to do the same performance without any no sort of substantial changes, but you can reinterpret it. So just this is something to think about if you do make it through. Some of our performers chose to do pretty big reinterpretations. Sometimes that works against you, I should say. I've seen this in other events that I've run where people have sort of reinterpreted when they've made it through to the finals, and it hasn't kind of worked as well. But sometimes it does work. So that's just something to think about. Same with the finals. It's the same performance, the global finals, the same performance and the same performer, the same monologue. I don't know what I mean by that note. Okay, we'll skip that one. We had pretty good publicity on another note last year. We actually had 65 stories and radio interviews in 10 different countries, including a few stories on the BBC, which was really amazing. So this is something to bear in mind. If you get through into the regional or the globals, there's a good chance you might get some media. And the way that I facilitated that is I wrote a media release, and it was a template, and you could just put in a few details, like you could put in your name and your location and just a few, like personal comments, and then send those through to your local media. And that was super effective. Again, getting 65 stories for one event is pretty amazing. I've worked on lots of big events before, and they don't get that kind of publicity. So that's something to think about as well. We've tried to get media pre-event, but the media just wasn't all that interested. So note that the time that they're interested is when we're doing the live streams and people have made it through. I guess a couple of other little things that I just wanted to point out. We were pretty lucky last year. We had really nice people involved, nice performers. So it feels almost unnecessary to say this, but I do want to just put it on the record, which is that we just ask everybody to play nicely and to not to be a dick with the team or myself or other performers, because we just want to create an enjoyable environment for everybody. So like, if you have any issues, feel free to contact me about it. I'm a pretty reasonable person, I like to think, and I'm really happy to, discuss any concerns that you might have, but please don't be an idiot. Please don't be a dickhead about it. Because like, I just don't want to have to, particularly because this is a lot of work for me, and I don't really get much pay for it. So I want this to be a fun experience for me too. So I'm just going to be blunt and say that I will just remove you from the event if you're not behaving, appropriately. So yeah, it feels a bit awkward to say this, but yeah, if you would please be nice. And like I said, if you have concerns, feel free to approach me, feel free to air them. Let's just be nice about it, and then we will all be good. We ran a series of masterclasses last year. There were 4. They're all still available. You can watch those masterclasses, and that's a big part of the reason why I haven't done anything this year, because all I was going to do was just duplicate the content that's already existing. I might send those links around if you want to check out the masterclasses, or you can find them via our website. They're available, and they're still getting views on YouTube, so people are seeing them. I'm thinking about trying to do a masterclass maybe sometime next week if I can, but unfortunately it's just really hard. We've got our deadline already in like 16 days. It's pretty close, and there's not much point doing a masterclass, after the deadline, obviously. So I'll see. I might try to squeeze one in, but at this stage I'm just uncertain. So apologies about that. But you can just jump in, and if you search for World Monologue Games masterclass, there's 4 on there that you can see. I think they're pretty good. It's quite technical. It's talking about a lot of different facets of performance, and particularly monologues. So check those out if you're interested in upskilling a little bit. And if I can manage to do another one sometime over the next week or so, I will let you all know. If you've subscribed to this channel, you'll get notifications, or if you've registered, then you'll get emails. So that's the best way to find out. Okay, I think that's probably all I need to say. let me just have a look at some of these questions that have come in, and please feel free to send any last questions now. I'll just keep answering these and then I'll call it a night. Are people more likely to win if they have several entries? Not necessarily, no. I think it depends on the quality of those entries. You're more likely to win if you find, let's say you do 3 performances and one of them really works for you. So it really suits your skill set as an actor. Yeah, like you're having more chances, so to speak. But we did have performers who put in a number of entries and didn't make it through. And then we had performers who put in a number of entries and got most or all of them through. And usually it just was a reflection of their, like, how experienced they were compared to other performers. Usually, not exclusively so. Of course, like, you know, the judges, even though they're using criteria and they're drawing on their experience, it's still subjective. It's very hard to say that these things are objective. But yeah, not necessarily. Basically, it gives you a greater chance because you're taking more chances, so to speak. What else do we have? Will this live stream be posted on your YouTube channel? If you're talking about this live stream right now, then yes, it is on my YouTube channel. It's happening right now live, and this live stream will be available from this same link, the same link that you use to access it, or whatever the link you're looking at now. You can send this to people and it will stay published and available for, you know, forever, basically, or until one day it gets removed. Excited about it. That's great. Thanks, Hugo. We're excited to have you. I'm looking forward to seeing your work. Is there an estimate on how many people are participating? Well, hard to say. I'd like to get into the thousands. I'd really like to see a few thousand submissions, but it might depend on what you think by what participating means. If you mean going into the regionals, then that also depends on the judges' ratings and the overall standard. So last year we had 205, I think it was, performances go through to the regionals and to the globals. I'd love to triple or quadruple that at least. In fact, I'd love to get 1,000 performances through into the regionals, into the live streams. That would be super. So guys, if you have friends who are performers, please encourage them to get involved. We'd love to have them in the games. There's honestly, there is no limit to the number of performers that we can take in this event. So we just absolutely love to have as many people as possible get involved. So please spread the word around with any acting buddies. That would be fantastic. Don't be nervous, Laura. You'll be great. Don't worry about it. If you don't like the video that you produce, then you can do another one. It's a great thing. And like, I guess a comment for everybody, you know, at the end of the day, there is subjectivity in these things. And if you don't get selected, it doesn't mean that you're bad. Like, you just have to take these things in your stride a little bit, not take it too seriously. It's great if you make it through. But, you know, as a writer, for example, I've had my plays produced quite a number of times around the world, and I still get rejections all the time if I submit into competition. So, like, you just have to learn to become zen with that. So don't stress out if you don't make it through. It's not the end of the world. Guys, look, I can't see any more questions that I haven't answered, and I've taken up a lot of your time. So all I can say is thanks very much for watching, and I'm really looking forward to seeing you at World Monologue Games. So get working on those submissions, get them through, and I have my fingers crossed that you will make it through to the live stream events. All right, guys, that's all for me. Good night.